Hello again, YouTube. This is Dr. Kendo, and I'm here with Scribblenauts Unlimited. This is the Object Editor commentaries where I create your favorite characters in the Scribblenauts Unlimited Object Editor. Now, we've created the characters that you're going to see today. Most of them we've created before, but there's going to be some changes that are needed, and some of them, of course, were created as speed creates. A speed create is typically when I'll play music. Usually there's no commentary. This is in 9 out of 10 speed creates usually, and they go very, very fast. Obviously, it's a speed create, and so sometimes people, of course, tell me that they can't see what's going on, they don't know the stamps and everything like that. The point is that I speed create these Five Nights at Freddy's characters, which is what we're doing today for sister location characters, and I do the speed create thing for some of them because they're not released close to a Sunday when I normally upload these videos, but they're also not released in full, like we can't see their full bodies. But then also when Scott releases these teasers for his upcoming FNaF games, they are rapidly coming out at certain times, like for instance Baby, which is the one we're working on right now, starting off with an android as the source object. You saw that we put a fez over the torso and a tutu right beneath the fez, and the fez is upside down, painted white, so that's over the body. A golem's thigh piece with that metallic-y color is down there for her thighs, with the android keeping those android legs to have the android shoes and everything like that. Golden egg right now going in the middle of the body. But yes, as I was saying, it's like Baby was one of the first teasers on scottgames.com that we had a look for sister location. And so now that the game has come out, of course, sister location did come out last week, well, we now have kind of using the extras menu in Five Nights at Freddy's sister location, you can kind of see full body models of the characters, and we can see that some of the colors were different, some of the aspects of the creations were not easily seen in those Scott Games website teasers or even in the trailer. And just to keep up with the creation here, I'm taking out a sphere, but I also typed in a ball, B-A-L-L, and a plus sign, and kind of those three things go within the golden egg to be like this fan or whatever, and the ball was the kind of the middle of the fan, whereas the sphere was like the black behind that fan, and the plus sign itself was being the fan, or fan-shaped thing, here in the middle of her body. And it's always fun using new stamps that I haven't used before, like this sea moth. So sea moth is two words separate, and so we're using this fin of the sea moth. The sea moth actually in biology, it makes up a family of fishes, and they all sort of have these long pectoral fins and things like that, and so they don't quite look a whole lot like the Scribblenauts Unlimited stamp, but that's because Scribblenauts Unlimited, I mean, it's kind of a 2D cartoony game or whatever. But we also took the golem thigh piece here 2 times for each arm of Baby, with a sticky hand as the hand, and we are going to go through the changes after this Baby. This is actually all captured footage that I did from the first time that I made Baby in that speed create, but I'm commentating over that in kind of from the future or whatever. Obviously from the present now, but this was all past recorded stuff. And the microphone, obviously you can just type in mic, so you don't have to type in all the way with microphone, but the microphone itself is actually orange in sister location, for example, and it does have the gray plate at the top, and there is some red somewhat associated with the microphone. We actually, for that microphone hand, we did a pecan, or depending on which part of the world you come from, pecan, but here in Texas we say pecan. And so the pecan was the main part of the hand, with a 29-page library arm shape from the 3rd page being the thumb. And you noticed, of course, hopefully you noticed at least, that there were thumbtacks sticking in her. That's because Baby actually has a lot more than stamp space would allow us. I could only do 2, one on each arm, but she actually has multiple kind of pins stuck inside of her, and so thumbtacks I thought was kind of an interesting way to convey that. But again, stamp space is limited. For those who don't know, Scribblenauts Unlimited is a game that is actually not unlimited. As oddly enough as it is, it has a limit to how many stamps you can put on to create an object here in the object editor. So for instance, we're using a head as a source object right now, but a stamp could be like this tail end of a worm that I just typed in for these eye holes on Baby, or those 2 pieces of hair that you see at the top. Those were from a man-eating plant, one of the jaws of a man-eating plant. And so scorpion upper middle tail piece is going to be for the nose. And on the 20th page of the 29-page library of shapes, there's this arm shape kind of in the bottom middle that we grabbed here for the eyebrows of Baby. And then whisker is what we're going to type in next to be some eyelashes and stuff. We're actually going to position them right here, and then we don't really have to put it, I guess, behind the worm tail, because we are going to put eye pieces for the eyes over this is what I'm trying to say. And so you'll see actually here with typing in a golf ball now, we're going to kind of go over most of that whisker. But if a little bit of it shows underneath the golf ball, that's actually good because Baby, you know, and all the animatronics in this game actually had these kind of lines on their faces where their faces could come apart, kind of perfectly laid out. And so with that, it's like Baby's eyes, Baby's mouth, all these like pieces of her face, you know, there was a lot of lines everywhere. And so again, this game being limited with stamps, we only had a limit to how many we could use. So even here, creating the head separately is still going to be tough to get all the details of Baby. And so hopefully you noticed that a pimple was for the pupil of the eyes, you know, those black dots in her eyes, and a dagger tooth, the middle body piece of a dagger tooth, that was the smile. Here for Baby's mouth, a sphere, which you could use, you know, any of these round shapes. Again, you could do a golf ball if you wanted to, just any of those. Those are for her rosy cheeks on either side of the mouth. And I actually just took, again from that 29-page library, I took a 10th-page mutant arm shape. It's just a green arm. Looks almost straight, but it has a slight bend to it. And that's going to be for the start of her hair right there, like she's got these hair ties. And so first we used an iguanodon, and in essence grabbed its shin, I guess you could say, or just above its shin, you know, the kind of middle back leg piece. And then a walrus is what we typed in after that, and took the very back flippers, you know, it's got its back fins or flippers back there. We took the one that is in behind that you can't see so much. And so these are all kind of to compose her hair, but the last step to it will be this manticore. The very end of the manticore tail, it has that kind of almost scorpion stinger look right there. Well, we can just take that manticore tail piece to be the little curl in Baby's pigtails. And of course she has them on the other side, but we don't really need to have 3 stamps on the other side, whereas we had 3 stamps on that first side of her hair that we were working with. Well, here Baby is, you know, looking at us kind of at an angle, or looking to the side at an angle, kind of like a quarter turn. And so with that, we didn't need to include an iguanodon shin piece or anything like that. And so again, with the stamp limitations, I just typed in a squid and grabbed this kind of upper tentacle piece that's close to its body. It's just a straight up black line almost is what it looks like, but that's going to be for some of the lines in her face. And yeah, with the stamp space, we couldn't include any more, unfortunately. Things are happening way too fast because I've got a lot of characters to get to, but hopefully you noticed in the properties editor, for the head objects, if you are creating the head and the body separately to save stamp space, which I did with almost all of these, well, you're going to want to, in the properties editor, go to the equipment tab and check off that little circle that says can be worn on the face like glasses down in the bottom half of the screen. You know, it's that third circle down. You should see the one. But now that we kind of completed both parts of our Baby, this is more what's current right here. Is I'm looking at some footage now of me adjusting colors and making the changes now that the game is out. So certainly we didn't need to include these kind of golden pieces right there on both sides of her chest. Those were 29-page library arm shapes on the 20th page. We can keep that white one that's above the bear thighs, or the bear's upper legs. That's what her chest pieces were, from a bear, B-E-A-R. And of course I colored that golden egg. I actually colored it with orange because she's actually got orange right there. And then she has these panelings, these gray panels, kind of like Funtime Foxy and Funtime Freddy, you know, and I guess even Ballora too. You can see those kind of like gray or other colored panels sometimes. And so Baby, for her, we used tofu, and I of course took away the metallic color on those thigh pieces, those golem thigh pieces for her legs, and just kept them white like the rest of her body. And so with those tofu pieces, those will be kind of those gray panels, and unfortunately stamp space limits us because she actually does have the like paneling on her arms, and of course lots of other pins, as I said, sticking in her, and even just her shoes. Like her shoes are multiple colors, but we could only make them red with the android shoes. Alright, and so now we will be looking at Bidybab, and we started off with an android as the source object for this character as well. A tooth is going to compose mostly the main part of its body right here. Just flip that tooth upside down, and I adjusted the body a little bit in size, you know, just made it a little bit bigger than the default android. A second tooth is placed on top of that white tooth right there, and it's going to have some color differences once we do the changes now that the game is out, but this is just sort of what it looked like from the teaser, the very first teaser that we saw with the little Bidybab guys. And so Golem, we're going to take that shoulder piece. You can do it twice for each arm's side, and that's going to be for the main connector pieces of its arm. And a head right now is placed where the head is supposed to be, just as a placeholder. because this was a character that we did the head and the body separately. Ginny Green Teeth, I took the back arm of Ginny Green Teeth, and that's for Bidybab's little hands and fingers and things like that. Cobia, we took the fin of the cobia, and those will be for some shoulder panels right here. As you saw, we just put those on. Same golem shoulder piece from the arms we can also use on the legs. Double up on each leg, and keep those android shoes once again. So that was pretty useful to save a little bit of stamp space, starting off with the android, I guess. And corned beef is what we use for the paneling on the thighs of Bidybab. So on both of those legs, you can see that kind of beigeish colored paneling. And of course, again, I don't know how many times I'm going to need to say it, but we do change the colors. We change certain design aspects and stuff now that sister location is out. So what you're going to see in this episode, this is all just me repeating what I said earlier, is, you're going to see kind of the old footage that I recorded when I was doing these speed creates and various things, and then I make note where we do the changes. So that was the Bidybab body, and so moving on to the head now. You can just start off with the head as the source object, paint it white, of course, and golem, we'll take the golem and grab that shoulder piece again to be some eye holes here, giving it that weird circuit looking pattern, and then coloring it mostly black. It's like a very dark color. Bubble is what we can use now for kind of the main white parts of its eyes here within those golem shoulder pieces, and scorpion is what we just typed in to grab the upper tail piece once again, upper middle tail piece we should say, and that'll be for the nose here on the little Bidybab. And pearl is what I can take now for some eye color, and the eye color does change, I think, a little bit from my head design and stuff. Again, we'll change that in a little bit. PEA is going to be for the pupils right there, and so just color them dark black, and that looks good. Fish is what I'll type in. Of course, you want the animal because fish does yield a result of food or animal. You can take your choice. 29-page library. On the 22nd page, near the bottom row, but it's the second from the bottom, there's in the middle that bended arm. It's almost actually straight, but it has a little bit of bend to it. That's what we put down beneath that fish tail, because the fish tail was painted all black for the mouth. And grills, if you type in GRILLZ, that makes grills for the little teeth that we have on Bidybab right there, all of them painted white. Cobia fin, once again, like we used for the shoulder paneling back on the body, we can use that same fin shape to be over the eyes right there. You can see just above the pearl eye parts and bubble eye parts. A dramatic chipmunk was, well, the body of the dramatic chipmunk was the pieces of the ear, kind of the main ear parts, and taking a barracuda and grabbing one of its fins was the inner parts of the ear to make those lines and stuff within the ear. Then revisiting the 29-page library again, going all the way to the 27th page, second row from the top, all the way on the right side. It had a little arm shape here that we're using for this cap on top of Bidybab's head for some more coloring and things. Okay, flying fish is what we're going to type in after that, and grab that top fin. It's got a big curl in it and everything. That'll be for some more sinister looks, I guess, for Bidybab, but just above the eyes right there. You saw where I put those, hopefully. And a squid, we can grab that tentacle piece. It's just a straight line from the squid. It's kind of near the squid's body, but it's an upper tentacle piece, and that went straight down the middle of Bidybab's head right there between the nose and the teeth and all that stuff. So then going back to the body, this is where we're going to make our changes and stuff to the colors for the Bidybab. You can see that the color is different. You know, it's a little bit more orangish peach kind of colored rather than that off beige, grayish beige color, I guess. And there was some more paneling, colored panels and stuff here on the legs, so we just took those cobia fins back from the shoulder, placed those down though on the Bidybab legs here, the second legs, just before those shoes or feets of the Bidybab. And it's all looking good, and the button, I guess, there on its chest is actually not all black. It's kind of a white color, so we can just give it this like whitish gray painting, and that all looks good. We'll change the color on the head as well for the eyes and the cap headpiece. Alright, and now we have Funtime Foxy right here, but you can actually see in depth how to create Funtime Foxy and Funtime Freddy in this game. Back in episode 175, I'll have an annotation or a link in the description and things like that, but there wasn't really almost anything to change with Funtime Foxy except for making the body a little bit thinner. And with Funtime Freddy, hopefully you notice that we just kind of color the toes white. If you check the extras menu now, Funtime Freddy does have white toes as well, so they are not that purpley pink paint color. And honestly, other than that, Funtime Freddy is mostly the same too. I guess I did a pretty good job back then before the game came out when we created them originally. So again, check that out in episode 175. Link in the description and or an annotation, something like that will be here. And then with Ballora, you know, there was a small margin of error, I guess, but yeah, this was another one that was mostly accurate when I was designing them before the game came out, and all just based on the trailer that Scott had uploaded on YouTube. And kind of the main difference is really just down there with her feet and her legs and stuff. I was pretty convinced, and I think a lot of other people could see it and stuff, and I even left a screenshot back on the Ballora episode, which if you want to see how to create Ballora in depth, that is episode 177. Link, annotation, description, or on screen, whatever. But I even left a screenshot there to show that her shoes did look pretty golden in the trailer, and I think that was just lighting and stuff like that, or perhaps Scott did actually have different colors, because some of the things from the trailer to now that the game is out were actually just slightly different by color or by design. But yes, Ballora's shoes are actually white, but they do have blue on top and stuff, so we just kind of edited those mummy arms that we used as the straps all going up her ankles and her shin and stuff like that. Well, I just painted more of that blue, and those little mango feet, those are now white instead of gold. So we'll be taking a look at the full-body Ennard model here, starting off with a hazmat worker as the source object for this one. It doesn't really matter if it's the female or male hazmat worker because they kind of end up the same. The female one just has some extra hair on the head. But anyway, we're going to type in Erin. You don't even need to do the last name. She has a very long last name. But if you go to the male version of Erin, that's what we're going to use for the torso because it shows off this like kind of Cylon robot version of Erin. And now I'm typing in a button. We're going to paint that sort of a darkish red color or whatever to go right here above all the torso stuff, but still attach it to the body or to the torso so that it's on the same grid, the same movement grid. And then we went with the treant, and I just took that front arm bicep part, you know, the upper arm where the bicep would be for the treant for both sides of the arms, as well as the treant's back hand. So the hand, wrist, and forearm part of the treant as well. And that's kind of what composes the two arms for our crazy full-body Ennard model here. A baboon, the upper part of its tail that is close to its body. That's what we use for a wire hanging out on the left arm of Ennard. It would be to our right. And intestine is what I typed in here for some more wiring and stuff in the middle. Everything you can see is kind of painted either with a zebra pattern or with this like strange circuit, kind of odd black and white pattern right there, like the treant hands, for example. This is all to convey that, yes, those are just all wiring because stamp space is going to be a huge issue on this one. We did use a cattail. You can either type it in or just grab it on the first page from the 29-page library. That's up there on the right arm or shoulder more so. And I typed in electronic, and we did that 4 times for the thighs of this full-body Ennard model here. And the letter I is going to actually be the lower part of the leg. So the 4 electronics are kind of the upper parts of the leg. And then to end it off, we've got that letter I with a metallic-y color, kind of painted a dark gray. And we're going to use this spring shape that is in the geometry library in Scribblenauts Unlimited. If you are playing on Scribblenauts Unmasked, you can actually just type in helix and get that same thing because it doesn't really have the geometry library in that game, so obviously you wouldn't just be able to grab it right away. Hand is what we used actually for the feet of Ennard, defying conventional logic, of course. You don't ever need to do that in Scribblenauts Unlimited where you put a foot for a foot. You can use any item for any purpose as long as you feel that it looks and acts the way that you want it to. Anyway, we've just typed in a root twice, and that's for both sides of the hands to go over the treant hands to add some more wiring, and just basically it looks like there are wires dangling from the hands like the real Ennard in the game. And so that second root that we did copy will end off the amount of stamp space we can have. Hopefully you also noticed around the thighs or the upper parts of the legs there were twiddle and more cattail pieces and stuff, so just use anything you can to kind of make wires and stuff hanging out there from the legs. A head is the source object, painted with a newspapery pattern that looks almost computery. We used a mammoth thigh. If you type in mammoth, but grab from the front legs, the one that's in back, you know, the one that's behind or whatever. So the second front leg in the back there is that kind of main faceplate for our Ennard head here. And an octopus, we actually grabbed this almost V-shaped, but it's a little bit wider. It's more of a wide angle filled in a V. That tentacle shape, it's to our right. We grabbed that for 2 times to be the jaw, I guess you could say, the bottom jaw piece. Basilosaurus, we can actually take just before the tail, there's kind of this like middle tail piece of it, and so that's what we grabbed for the other side's faceplate, which is kind of coming off more so. I feel like the mammoth one is a little bit more full, and then this one is coming off, the Basilosaurus one. And then a scorpion upper middle tail piece is going to be for the nose, like we've done with Baby and some other characters, Bidybab, but that's more the nose shape, whereas the actual nose, or the red little honking clown looking nose, that's just a pearl. You can use any of those round shapes that you want. I like the pearl because it's really shiny and stuff. Golem shoulder piece is what we're going to use for the eye hole here for the Ennard on this left side. It would be to our left, of course, the Ennard's right. And instead of a chicken nugget, actually, I think I'm going to go with just a hemisphere for the ear shape. You could use a chicken nugget, but it's a little bit more one-sided. The hemisphere is a little bit more even with its arch. And so then you can type in golf ball, or again, any of those kind of ball shapes that you want to use. I thought the golf ball was good. It's just sort of a neutral round shape that we can use. That's going to be for an eye inside here, not in the plating or whatever, but the one that we can see here revealed. And then I'll go ahead and type in ball, and we're going to make that just white again and put that within the golf ball shape here, but the ball one was a little bit darker, so it's like a grayish white rather. And then a PEA is what we typed in for the pupil, and a cuttlefish is what we're going to type in next to grab one of the little arm tentacles that it has here, the one that's in the middle, but it's a little point, the little triangular points. These will be for the teeth. Really, it doesn't matter which triangular one you want to pick. It's just as long as you feel that it looks like the teeth right there, that's good. You may actually want to shift the teeth over just a little bit to our left. Right now, they look a little bit too far right, I'm seeing kind of when I look at this in post-production, but that's okay. A dunce cap is what we're using, of course, for the little party hat. We're going to need to add more details to that in just a moment, so give me a second, and I just did a few adjustments of things first, and then typing in a wiffle ball. The wiffle ball we can put on the top, and of course, it's being moved way far away from the original head source object, and you only have a limit to how far you can move it at the size that it's at, so if you feel that you've hit the max and it doesn't seem to be moving anymore, just increase the size, move it up, then decrease it back down to normal size, and keep just kind of increasing and decreasing until you get it where you want it to be. Octopus tentacle piece, again, you can use a lot of them. I just kind of use the mainly straight octopus tentacle piece, and that's going to be for the upper part of the endoskeleton jaw, in essence, and we can use that same piece actually for the bottom of the party hat, you know, the dunce cap that we used right there. Golem shoulder pieces, we can just copy that one that we had already on the face here, and put that not only for the face plate that's kind of coming off of the head, but also the one that's behind the eye, you know, just all the way back in the layer. On the 29-page library, we can go to the 10th page, grab the mutant arm shape in the bottom middle. It's a green arm. That can be for some stripes on the party hat or whatever, and a hemisphere down at the bottom within those kind of white jaw octopus pieces and behind the teeth and all that stuff, just to create some darkness from the mouth. And whenever you create a head and a body separate in Scribblenauts Unlimited to save stamp space, you just want to be sure that on your head object you script it under the properties editor. Go to the equipment tab and check off the third circle down at the bottom that says can be worn on the face like glasses. Either that or can be worn on the head like a hat. One of those needs to be checked off. Otherwise, you'll put the head piece into the body piece's hands rather than where it should go. Anyway, the last creation that we've got coming up here for this episode is going to start off with the source object of Nick Southam. That's this 5th cell developer right here. And we're going to shrink the body down real tiny because this is going to be a Minireena. And we're going to take a 2-2 now after removing all of the limbs, the head, all that stuff, as you can see, and painting the body this beige tan color. And going into the 29-page library, on the 20th page, top right corner, there's this kind of straight arm, just a little tiny arm. We're going to use that as the neck coming out, so attach it to the body, but then put it behind the body and up, so it goes for the neck. A viper fish, we took this little like pink fin that it has hanging off. It kind of looks triangular shaped, but a really long and thin one. That's going to be actually for the thighs for the Minireena, just this upper part of the leg. And then for the second part of the leg down here is going to be the letter I on both sides. And then to finish it all off, we're going to go with Dough, D-O-U-G-H, and that'll be for the feet of the Minireena here and the little point shoes. And so then I'm going to go ahead and type type in an octopus. On the kind of right side, back in the back, there's this tentacle shape that is the upper tentacle that is mostly straight here. We'll do that twice for the arm. And then back on the 20th page of the 29-page library, there is that arm shape. We've used it before in this episode, but basically down in the bottom middle is this arm shape. That'll be for the hands of the Minireena here at the ends of those octopus tentacle arms. And a golden egg will be for the main part of the head, but I do want to shrink the head grid down. Since our character is just so tiny right here, I kind of want it to mostly match where the head is, and the only reason you really would want to do that is if like your character's eating something or putting on glasses or hats or whatever. That will actually make it so that the head and the grid for the head are, you know, nearly the same size. It'll all go in the right position for doing whatever action it might be. Type in worm and grab that middle body piece for the two eye hole areas, the black, and then a salmon. We took the salmon's tail, and the salmon's tail will act as the mouth right here, but I do want to kind of even out that top part of the mouth, so I typed in a glow stick and just paint that all the way night black, like this pitch black color right there, to match the mouth that we placed, and just line it up with the very top of the mouth horizontally, completely sideways. A pimple will be the yellowish part of the eye right here. That is if you want to include the eyes. I know that the Minireenas on the extra screen, they sort of look like they don't have the eyes in there, but when you are playing Night 4, you kind of see some different Minireenas in essence, because they can jump scare you, and you can obviously see the eyeballs and the pupils and all that stuff. And so speaking of the pupils, we actually did a nursery fish and just grabbed that fin because it shrinks even smaller. Well, it shrinks to a pretty small and thin stamp piece that can actually fit within the pimple that we had there. And so hopefully you also saw on screen there was another Minireena in the top right corner that I showed off. If you want to make your Minireenas kind of like I made Ballora with the arms going up, you know, in any of those dancing poses, you know, you can make the arms go however you want, but I'll just have the Minireena here with the arms at the side. As you look at this right here, this is epic. All of our creations that I've done kind of up until this point for sister location. Now there's clearly there are so many things that, you know, people could say like, oh, you forgot the heads on the wall or exotic butters or something like that, you know, or even the characters on the television show. That is not true. It is probably embarrassing that I have to keep making the distinction between forgetting and then purposely not doing something, you know, like I basically, what I'm trying to say is that I intended to create every character that is in this episode, nothing more and nothing less. If you guys really want to see these kind of like odd out there things like the heads on the wall or the little dolls or the exotic butters or something like that, I guess you'll just have to make a request. And remember that I create whatever is most popular or most requested by the most amount of different viewers each week. That's how the item is chosen. But I want to thank you so much. Hopefully you saw my sister location live streams. Maybe I'll annotate to them here or have them in the description. Who knows? It'll be done in post. But I will leave it at that. I love everybody's support, and I'll catch you on the next vid, and thanks for viewing. Like a spectacle so you can be the viewer and
down the road of twists and turns, always anxious to see what's within. We can look ahead to the point of no return, to the rest of our lives as the spectacle begins. I've been down the road of twists